Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you did not know, my name is Robin and this is a queer book channel, and today we will be talking about some horror queer books. As you may be able to tell, it is just in time for spooky season. I'm literally filming this on the 1st of October, so happy Halloween month everybody. This is my favourite season because Nana's getting old, alright? It's dark earlier, it's nice and cozy. I don't want to be those stereotypical white women that are like, oh my hot chocolate, my book by the window, but it's like, it's me. It is me. I love that. I love that it's raining. I love that it's grey. I love that it goes dark 5 p.m. It's literally everything I need in my life. And so to help out during spooky season, what better way than to talk about some queer horror books. I did have YA books on this list, and I did have books that I hadn't read before on this list. But just for the sake of time and editing and stuff like that, my list was around 35 books long. So these are all the books that I've read personally and I've really enjoyed. I will try and include as many trigger warnings as possible because some of these books are quite graphic and quite a lot. So yeah, we will get into them, but yeah, there will be trigger warnings that come up the side for some of those books. So if you want witches, stories of friendship, trans representation and lesbian representation, the best place I could point you to is Her Majesty's Royal Coven and the Shadow Cabinet, which is the sequel to this book. So a quick overview if you've not seen my video. I talked a lot about this book in particular on my channel, and a review of this book is coming out soon. This book is set in the UK and more importantly the North, which is, you know, I'm a northern lass. I'm very happy with the representation in this book. In this universe, witches exist, and not only do they exist, but they have their own department in the government, which is Her Majesty's Royal Coven. In this book we focus on a group of friends who only one of them works within the HMRC. In this book we focus on a group of friends who are witches. They get pulled out of their normal daily lives, or what they've tried to build as a normal life, to deal with the prophecy of Satan coming into fruition, as some witches can see the future and they see that the cogs are basically in motion for the second coming to start happening. It's a very lovely story about found family, friendships, Spice Girls, lots of Spice Girl references, a lot of 1990s references. It's a really wholesome book, it's really lovely. The sequel to this is Her Majesty's Royal Coven, incredible book as well. We get to see a lot more of the characters, we get to see a lot more of the plot progressing, and yeah, both very good. If you want some witches, if you want some 90s vibes, if you want some friendship, like, it's a very lovely place to start. So I don't have this book with me right now, but the second book I want to talk about is Boy Parts. I have talked about Eliza Clark's Penance. I do have a review on that, which I would suggest reading around this time as well, because it's a crime fiction book, which is really good, but I have a whole review on that, so it is technically part of the list, but I'm not going to go into detail about it. Boy Parts follows the main character, who's called Irina, or Irina. If I'm mispronouncing the name, I apologise. But this book follows Irina, and she works in a bar, but she's recently been put on sabbatical. We also find out that she is a photographer on the side, and she used to also have quite a big following a couple of years ago. And during this sabbatical, she is reached out to by a London gallery and asked if she wants to produce another piece of work for them, and also if she wants to bring some of her archive stuff as well to showcase. And so we find out a lot about Irina, who takes these very risque photos of what she calls average looking men, and she puts them on show. We find out a lot through her past work and what she is like. She has an interest in this man at her local shop, and we find out that she wants to model him for her new piece for the gallery, and we get to follow all of that. She is like a mess of a woman. If you like messy main characters, I would suggest this so much. It's so good. It's not a big book either, so yeah, if you're very much interested in that, if you've read Penance, then you should read Boy Parts. It's a really incredible book. It's very graphic and it has a very good sense of dark humour as well, and it's really one for the girlies who are like in their 20s, like moi. It's very rooted in like internet culture as well, and it's very good. Also, if you live in London, this has been turned into a one-woman show. If the train tickets weren't £400 for like a return train ticket, I would be going to watch it myself, but unfortunately that's not the case. But unfortunately it's just too expensive for me to go, which is a shame because I really wanted to see it. But just if you're in London, you have to go and see it for me and give me your opinions. So another author that I have talked way too much about, and I will only be doing a very brief overview here, is Julia Armfield. I have talked about Julia Armfield a lot on my channel and even done like a convincing you to read Our Wives Under the Sea video because it's my favourite book of all time, and if I can force it among as many people as possible, then I will. I definitely had to include it on this list just in case someone stumbled on it, or just to be like, yeah, by the way, this book still exists if it's still on your list. This book follows Miri and Leah, and they are wives, and Leah is a marine biologist or works in that sort of field, and she has gone on a submarine trip. When she comes back, she was not the person who she was before. Throughout the course of the book, we get two POVs, one from Miri, one from Leah, and Miri describes their relationship, describes like what living together was like, describes just their love and everything, and it's really incredible. And she also describes the current situation, and we get Leah's perspective of what happened on the submarine when she was gone, and a lot of sick and twisted things start to happen. There's a lot of body horror going on, and Leah just starts morphing into this thing that Miri doesn't know if she can help or control, and she doesn't know what to do. It's a very great book about loss, and it's really, really beautifully written, and I will plug this book every time I get, but like, I can talk forever about it, so if you are interested in this book, I do have a video already. But this isn't even the main book I wanted to talk about for this list. What I actually wanted to talk about was Salt Slow, which is a short horror collection of stories, which is about women in their place in society, and just basically telling women's stories, but with a like shocking element to it, with like a horror twist to it. It's really amazing, and if you love short horror stories, if you just need something easy to get through, I have to point you to this. And yeah, this was incredible. This is really, really incredible. So if you fancy some short horror stories, then this is the gal to go to. Another book that has a collection of short horror stories about women's experiences is Things We Say in the Dark. This is also really, really incredible, and again, it's in the same sort of vein as this, so if you like one or the other, then check the other one out. Things We Say in the Dark is a collection of short horror stories about women's experience, and in between all these horror stories there is like one continuously flowing story, which is, it's really, really beautiful. And both of these have stories in it that I still think about occasionally that you just can't shake out of your head, so definitely check these out if you want to. I think a third for the list as well, if you are interested in short horror stories, is Her Body and Other Parties. I haven't read this one, but it's very high on my TBR, or has been for a while because it's been out for ages, but also follows in the same vein of these books of short horror stories written from the female perspective, which they just make really good books. Women's horror books are elite. Women writing horror it's the best genre. There was no explanation for these ones just because I feel like if I try to talk about them too much, I will just be giving plots away. If you like horror stories, or if you just want something easy to get through and reading something like this is just easier for you, I definitely suggest these two and you should check them out. So the next book I want to talk about is Manhunt, and I'm actually I've nearly finished this book. And also, before I get into talking about the contents of the book, can I just say that this isn't even like a proper step cover, like someone just sliced the side of that, and so it's just bare book hanging out. This is the worst step cover I've ever seen in my entire life, but it's a good job. The contents of the book are really, really good. But I hate this. I hate this so much. There is a ton of trigger warnings to go along with this book. I'm going to try and word my describing of the book as best and as nice as possible. Manhunt follows Beth and Fran, who are two trans women, and also Robbie as well, who is a trans man. They are trying to navigate a world where a disease has basically taken over all men. This disease grows in people with a lot of testosterone and has basically turned these men into rabid and feral, vile dogs, and the only things that they want to do is fuck and kill. The trans women in this book have survived by still consuming estrogen, and also the only sort of way that if you're in a post-apocalyptic setting that these women can get their estrogen is by eating a certain part of a body part, is probably all I'm allowed to say. But this isn't their only issue in this world. because TERFs run everything, and TERFs are out trying to kill trans people because they think that trans people are a threat. So this book is very, very on the nose about its critique and commentary on current day society and its treatment of trans people, but it is incredibly good. It's very violent. As you can tell, it's very violent, it's very graphic. There is a lot of things about this book that if you're even like the little bit squeamish, like, it's probably not for you, but it is really, really incredible. This is one of the best sort of covers I think I've ever seen on a book, and that's exactly what they have to consume. There you go, that's what they have to consume to make sure that they survive. So enjoy that image. It's really good. It's a must read. It's really shocking, and it was quite popular on TikTok last year, I think it was. But yeah, it's really good. In the same vein of critiques on society and trans people, I can't go without mentioning Tell Me I'm Worthless, which again is another really graphic horror, like, it's a really graphic horror book. In fact, I think that this book is a lot more intense than this book, but it's one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. It's really incredible. This is a trans horror book that critiques the climate of trans people, but in the UK, and it's really, really graphic. This is just like, I decided like this is literally my favourite genre of book, by the way, because I've never read anything like either of these books. It's just absolutely, it's unworldly. It's so different to any horror book that you will ever read, and it genuinely feels like it comes from a place that it needs to. So yeah, these sorts of books are absolutely incredible. So this book follows Alice and Ela. I'm gonna call it Ela, not Isla. I should have probably googled it before I started doing the video, but we're gonna go with Ela. Alice is a trans woman and Ela is a TERF. They were best friends until 3 years ago, when 3 of them, Alice, Ela and their friend Hannah, went into a haunted mansion, and only Alice and Ela came out, and they now live with the trauma and the images of the things that they witnessed inside the house. Now, in current day, Ela asked Alice if she wants to go back into the house to go and save Hannah. They also go back because they're starting to feel like a draw from the house, like it's calling out to them, and so they go back in, and it's an absolutely wild fucking time, let's just put it that way. This book is the only book that's ever terrified me. I never understand people that say I'm too terrified to turn the page. Like, it's different, you know, when you're watching a film, it's different because you can get, you know, the music, not jump scares or anything. So I've never understood it for people that say that about books. I understand it now. This book has truly shown me what that means, because I, like, at times would just sort of like like getting further and further away from the book. It's really fucking incredible. It has haunted houses in it, it has the ghost of Morrissey in it, and it has so much gore and violence, and yeah, it's a really, really incredible read. So if you're up to the challenge, then Tell Me I'm Worthless and Manhunt are definitely the books for you. If you like the more gory side of things, which I love, so if that's your sort of cup of tea, then definitely read those 2 books. I also would like to say that Alison Rumford, who wrote Tell Me I'm Worthless, has a new book coming out on the 5th of October, which is literally around the corner. I have not pre-ordered it yet because I'm waiting for hopefully a signed edition to come out, because I would very much like a signed edition of the book. Yeah, her new book is called Brainworms. It's another body horror book with the same themes, so I will definitely be buying this, and I am so excited for it to come out because it's my Joker. This is my Joker, alright? So the next 2 books I want to talk about are both a horror mermaid genre type of book. And if you were a kid who, like me, loved H2O so much that they tried to cast spells so that they would become a mermaid, yeah, that was my childhood. This is the perfect genre for you. The first one I want to talk about is Chlorine, which is a debut novel that came out this year and is absolutely incredible. This book follows Renyu, whose whole life is swimming. She's in a competitive team at school, and she's doing so well with it that she has people coming out to see if she's good enough for a scholarship for all the best universities or colleges in America to see if she's good enough to get a scholarship for those. But Renyu doesn't care about any of that because Ren grew up with stories of mermaids and things that lived in the ocean. It is her dream to be rid of her human body and to turn into a mermaid. She adores swimming, she loves the sea, and the only thing that is keeping her going is the thought that she will become a mermaid, and is in its own way a really gory coming of age story. It's really incredible, and it's not your cut and dry horror story, but I think there is elements of this. There are body horror elements of this because Renyu does become a mermaid. Mermaids are not born, they are made according to the back of the book. And yeah, this is one of the most beautiful covers of all time. It has this like really this gold foiling. It's absolutely gorgeous, and also for a debut novel it's insane. It's really insane. So I'm excited for what Jade's Song does in the future because this was really incredible. But if you're looking for more of a literal horror book that involves mermaids, Into the Drowning Deep is definitely for you. I've talked about this on my channel like years ago because this has been out for ages, but when I first read this, I think I gave it like 2 stars because the ending is a little naff. I reread it and it's definitely a 4-star book. And I'm not saying you would need to reread it for that reason, but I think I was definitely a little harsh because this is a really incredible horror book and there's no denying that. I can't remember any of the names, I'm literally just taught like off the top of my head thinking about this book. This book starts with a deep sea mission by a film crew who believes something is going on in the oceans and they never come back. So the sister of one of the people aboard the ship decides to go with a group of scientists and explore themselves because people didn't take this very seriously because the film crew that originally went out was a hoax type film crew, like they created hoax videos, and so nobody believed that they disappeared. But in the story it's in fact very real, and when the scientists get to the Mariana Trench to where they went missing, they soon find out why they went missing, and we find killer mermaids who are hungry and just ready for the taste of flesh. Some of the scenes in this were super graphic. You can really feel the tension and it was really incredibly written. So I have to applaud this book for being really great. I really enjoyed it, and if you love murderous mermaids, this is definitely the one. So the next book on this list, I don't think I have to explain, but there is a reason for it being on the list, and that is Gideon the Ninth. As someone with a Gideon the Ninth tattoo, I may be a little bit biased about how amazing this book is. But if this has been on your list for a while now, you have it and you're interested, it's definitely the season to read this book. I read this during the autumn times, and whenever I think about reading a book in autumn, my brain immediately takes me to this book. This book has skeletons, it has lesbian necromancers, it has a whodunit sort of style in a haunted castle slash house sort of thing. And it is really incredible. There are some really lovable characters, there's some really great comedy, there's skeletons, there's lovable characters, and it will ruin your life, but for the better. I promise it's for the better, because yeah, if you have not read this yet, it's definitely the season to pick it up because it is very incredible, and I really, this book is like the place in my heart this book has. I love it so much. So yeah, it's definitely the time to check Gideon out if you haven't yet. For our final book, I wanted to talk about this book. I may have brought it up in the past of being as like one of my favourite books that I've read, which 90% of the books on this list have been, but I really love horror books, so there we go. And that is A Dowry of Blood. First of all, I want to talk about the cover change because the cover was originally this really gorgeous cover and we got this instead. This book is Dracula's first wife, which she's called Constana, and this is her final love letter to Dracula after she and Dracula's other partners kill Dracula. So that's the whole premise. But this book is very beautifully written. I could have suggested so many other vampire books, and I had so many vampire books on my list. Being a vampire is very, very queer, but Dowry of Blood is a gorgeous love letter and like a final goodbye to Dracula, and we go through every experience that Constance has gone through, and her relationship with Dracula, how toxic he was and how awful he treated her and the other people in their relationship. And it's just really beautiful. It's really fantastic. It made me cry a little bit. It made me cry a little bit, and I definitely think it's a very different vibe to the rest of the list. But also, if I was just to recommend you a bunch of like horror books, I wouldn't feel like I've given you a varied list. So if you want a bit more heart and soul in your vampires, this is exactly the book that you should be reading. Also, the author of this book, S.D. Gibson, is bringing out another vampire book in February, which is Lesbian Vampires, which is all really incredible. This is gay. Every book on this list has been a queer book, but more lesbian vampires in my life, please, because I need them. It's fantastic. I love it. Baby Teeth is a like lyrical book, and it's about a human that falls in love with a vampire and how that relationship will never work, and it's really heartbreaking, but it's really short. And I mean, you see, it took me about half an hour to read because of how it's set out, and it's a really fantastic book as well. So if you want heartbreak vampire stories, a little bit different for the norm, this is sort of in the same vein of like, well, this is about an abusive relationship and getting out of it and how she was treated, and it, again, really fantastic book. And this is about the heartbreak and the hell that it is in being a vampire and falling in love with somebody and not being able to love them back because you might kill them, basically. So if you want a bit of, like I said, heart and soul in your vampire books, then these are definitely the places to be going, because really incredible. So I hope you enjoyed my list of 11-ish. I did talk about more than 11, but officially 11 books that you should be reading for Halloween this year. Again, these are all books I really, really love and are very dear to my heart. This is my favourite genre, and yeah, I really love queer horror books. Are a really fantastic range of books. I really enjoy talking about just queer books in general, but queer horror is like where it is for me. I really enjoyed making this video, and hopefully for myself, I want to be reading as many queer horror stories as possible this month. So I've already started with Killing Jericho, and we'll see how we go. And yeah, I'm expecting the list for next year to be 10 times longer, but thank you so much for watching my video. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, and I shall see you next time. Bye.